Anyway, in mid-1995, my partner, Nabi, and his wife approached Sue and myself and said, would you like to do something different? Now, you see, when you've been in advertising for 30 years and you're 49 and you look around, there's no one over 50 that you can see. They've either died or they're in a pub, and usually the latter is the case. Anyway, we got together and he said, I've got this concept that I've been offered called Gloria Jeans. I said, I don't know a lot about fashion, as you can tell. But he said, no, it's coffee. I said, well, that's good. I like a cup of coffee a day. It was always okay, cold, hot, poor. Generally in those days it was terrible, but you didn't know of any difference, and it probably was good compared to instant coffee, however they did it. And so he showed us this colour brochure, and you know how you always get sucked in by the colour brochure. And so I said, let's go to the US and let's have a look. And, you know, they took us to their 3 best stores in Chicago. And you would have thought I would have learned after 30 years in advertising. The first store had a green front, the second a mahogany, and the third a blonde timber. And the names above the doors had Gloria and Jeans and a mix of it. So it should have said they do not have this together. But, you know, the colour brochure and the emotions and the passions are running high because it's coffee. And so we walk in the store, and all it is full of merchandise, coffee and tea merchandise that you could buy to take home, 78 varieties of coffee beans. And down the back, this little espresso machine making great coffee drinks. Mind you, in the US, anyone half trying to do the job well, you'll get a decent cup of coffee compared to what they sell everywhere over there. And those who've travelled to the US will know what I mean. It is incredibly hard to get a drinkable cup of coffee, but they drink it by the bucket load with intravenous straws, and they refill several times a day. Large. And large is large. You give our large to them and they refuse it. It's small, too small. And they were using great ingredients, premium coffee from around the world, cocos and so on. We moved to Boca Raton on the East Coast, which the head office was. We sat in a room and they said, are you interested in buying the rights for Australia? We said, well, we might be. What do you got in mind? They said, well, the term will be 10 years and we would see you opening 75 stores in that 10-year period. Well, I don't know about you. When you have nothing, one's a lot. And 75, I know 10 years is a long time, but 75 is an awful lot. And we said, well, we can't see this concept really working in Australia to that level. It would only be in major shopping malls. And, you know, when you agree to a number in that 10 years is what you pay up front for the royalty or the fee for that country. So it's important that you get it right, and it's important you get as low as possible. So we came up with a number. You know, we thought to ourselves, very scientific, well, how many shopping malls are there in Sydney, and Penrith, and Parramatta, Chatswood, and Miranda, and a couple more. And we thought, well, there's got to be at least the same in Melbourne. There wasn't, I discovered, but there is now. And that doubled it, halved it for Brisbane, Adelaide, and Perth. Forget Tasmania. And I'd only heard there was a major shopping mall called Casuarina in Darwin. And there is, by the way, and we do have one in there. We actually got 7 in Tasmania now, with more coming. And that came to 25. Well, they didn't like 25. And we argued for many hours, but finally they agreed to that, and we signed, or it took several months getting the documents right, but we finally signed an agreement to open 25 stores in 10 years, which would have finished in 2006. That would have been the 10 years. Today, now coming almost to the 12th year, because it was mid-November 96, there are now 472 stores around Australia. Over 3.5 years ago, we purchased the rights for the brand, for the intellectual property and the brand rights and everything for the world, plus supply of all product to every country except the US. You've got to ask yourselves, why would you do a stupid thing like that? And we asked ourselves many times, we said, why do we want to do this? But I'd been used to dealing with Americans, certainly in advertising with McDonald's since they launched in Australia, plus other companies. And other than McDonald's, and even they had some limitation, but certainly better than most, Americans do not understand outside the east or west coast of America. And Gloria Jeans were probably at the bottom of the list in understanding. McDonald's would be at the top and everyone else fits in between. But Gloria Jeans would keep going to the bottom as more people came in because they were that bad at this. And I said, we need to secure our rights after the 10 years because if they don't renew our agreement, our business is worth nothing and neither is our franchisees. So we need to try and get the rights for Australia. That's all we were looking at. And we started discussions, and through, it's quite a long story, but in the end we ended up buying the brand for the world. And we inherited 15 countries, all a basket case, because they hadn't trained, they hadn't helped. They had a guy in charge of international, would not allow him to travel. Very hard to police or, you know, keep an eye on things or direct. And countries, just through their own need, developed in a direction that they went, and most of them got way off track, and the brand in terms of the specialty coffee market was not working. So we inherited these countries. We announced to them, as did the Americans, that we've now bought it, and they were extremely excited, because they thought everything came out and the sun shone out of America. So we invited them to Australia for our second franchise conference on the Sunshine Coast, had an international day, and said, today is a new day. The vision for Australia will now become the vision for the world. All stores will be designed in Australia, all signage will come out of Australia, all supply will come out of Australia. You'll be retrained in Australia. If you don't like it, there's the door. No one left. The Japanese did stand up, but sat down again. Each of those countries are now successful and heading in the right direction, and there are now, Tony mentioned 30, but there's actually just over, in the 30s now, the countries that are open, and there's now over 900 stores worldwide. Every time you give a number, it keeps growing, you know, every week. That's the problem with these things, but anyway, that's what's happening. So we have this brand and we inherited. What it proved to me is you can change a mindset of a nation. When we started in the suburbs, no one walked around drinking hot drinks. Cold drinks, yes, because McDonald's had changed the culture, because when they came to Australia, it wasn't a social acceptance to walk around with food and drinks. But that started to change through McDonald's influence and Coca-Cola and so on. But no one was doing hot drinks. In the city, you would have some people doing it. And certainly today, there's a lot more coffee outlets. Every building that goes up seems to at least have one, if not 2 or 3 coffee outlets. So there are plenty available, all dispensing various quality of coffee. But what happened is, through our naivety, in some ways, and belligerence, that this is the concept. It's in a takeaway cup because you need to do a lot of volume to pay bills and labour, to do turnover, to be able to have a viable business, because we're not a cafe or restaurant to serve meals. You need to do a lot of transactions, and people have to get the idea that you've got to take it away because you'll never have enough seating. It changed the mindset of the nation, where today people leave home and mentally say, I've got to get a cup of coffee. Now, it might be a cup of tea, it might be a hot chocolate drink, it might be a cold coffee drink, it might be cappuccino, latte, whatever it is, where they're going to the bank, the supermarket, meeting with friends, just going to the park. They even buy it and take them back home because they can't make them as well at home, no matter what type of equipment they get, unless they're trained. So today, the amount of coffee that is sold in Australia is phenomenal compared, and it needed a mindset change. And in your business and in your category and wherever you work, you can change the mindset of your town or your city or the country to your product category or to your brand with focus. We didn't have the money that Telstra, that Coles or Woolworths or McDonald's have in marketing, but what we did was stay focused. And that's what helped build the brand. When you try to say too many things with your marketing in the various aspects, whether it's your website, your stationery, and so on, your advertising, then you have an issue that cuts down your marketing funds.